Hey there folks, Bob Yeager here. So during this fire challenge, I'm going to be doing some lesson videos that have to do with fire, but it's the more, I'm starting with convenient fire. Basically, and don't mind the wind, sorry, I'll try to speak up for you. Basically, most of the time that I'm coming out in the woods, I'm coming out to hunt, and I need something quick, efficient, and mostly I need it for sustainability, for things like cooking my food, for distilling water from the creek, and making coffee. So generally I'm not doing a whole lot of heat fires, right? We're going to get into fire lays in different videos, and obviously I'm not entering the challenge because I'm holding the challenge. That wouldn't be quite fair, would it? But let me go through some things. And I went out, I spent about 20 bucks. And what I did was I got things that people would typically get when they're first starting out. And the reason I did that is because these things actually do work, but like anything, they take skills and practice to achieve what you're looking to achieve, okay? Now, let me get some things out of my bag here and then I'll show you what I got. All right. Okay, first thing is I have a roll of duct tape strapped to my bag, and we'll get to that a little bit later, why that could be critically important to you. It's a roll of Gorilla Tape. I usually keep a really big roll in my bag. I don't have one today. I have a smaller roll on the side, tied to the side of my bag. I don't use that a lot. It's there for when I need it. It might be there for repairing, like let's say I ripped my jacket, right? I just want to repair it real quick. It might be there because I'm taping something to a tripod or a tree or something like that. But mainly I use that as a fire resource. So I'm not using it a lot, but I can make containers out of that to carry water and many other different things, okay? But the other thing is just a small hank of paracord. I don't generally use paracord all that much. I'm of that camp of bank line more than anything, and mule tape. But paracord I do keep around because it has its uses. Mostly it's about the fact that I can make a tinder bundle out of paracord. All right, so if I can't find dry tinder, it's a flash source. It goes up pretty quick, but I can use it in combination with other things to get a fire going, okay? Next thing is, you see these all the time. I probably paid more than you should, and that's these little magnesium fire starters, right? I think I paid $8 for this one. Typically, you can get them at Walmart for $4 or $5, something like that, all right? Most people use them wrong. Do they work perfectly? No, they do not. Is the Ferro Rod on them great? No, they are not. They're horrible, actually. But the magnesium itself, if you know how to use it properly, can actually help you get that fire started, okay? Next thing is a cheapo Coghlan's Ferro Rod. Once again, probably paid too much. I paid like $5.99 for that, right? Just a cheapo Ferro Rod. Would I use the scraper on it? No, I carry a knife for a reason, right? I'd use my knife. It's easier to handle than that little tiny scraper. So I have the Ferro Rod, all right? Not the best one in the world, doesn't cast the biggest sparks, but it helps, all right? Another thing is waterproof fire sticks. Once again, it's an item that people use incorrectly, but this is surefire. I know I can get a fire started with this, all right? These are cheapos. They're not the best in the world. Once again, this little package was $3, okay? The odd thing is I carry a Citronella candle that's in a tin. Now, this is a brand new one. It was $5 at Dunham's Sporting Goods, okay? The Coleman Citronella Candle. Why a Citronella candle? People are like, oh, to keep the bugs away. Well, it's the middle of winter, so I'm not dealing with bugs all that much. I found that the Citronella candles and beeswax candles burn a lot hotter than a regular candle. I can use this candle actually to set under less than prime tinder resources to have a constant flame going until those tinder resources catch on their own, right? But other than that, though, when this candle's done, this is a metal tin. What can I use it for? I can use it to char material for my next fire, right? So, you know, if I open this candle up, if you actually pull out the sides a bit, you can actually drop that candle right out of there. The wick inside this candle is not an actual wick. It's actually a piece of cedar. All right, so it burns with a bigger flame than a regular candle does. If you're carrying a Bic lighter, which you should be, that's right there could help with wet resources, with less than prime resources. So the other thing I carry, don't use them that much, but they're there just in case. Some stormproof matches, some Yuko stormproof matches. I've tried the bigger ones, the Titan matches, and I didn't care for them actually. The ones with the fat wood made in. I liked the fat wood part because I could shave that off. But when it came to the matches themselves, they were flash burn. They like that, and then they went out. These ones stay lit a little bit longer. So I have the stormproof matches, and I rarely ever use them, but they're a just in case. The last thing is a lighter, right? And, well, not the last thing. So I have the lighter, and then I always have this in my pocket. You notice the day today, it's very sunny out, right? Don't always have those days, but this is a 7-time magnification magnifying glass. All right, you can pull the small lens out of a pair of binoculars, an old pair of binoculars you find at a thrift shop, or you can just go on like Self-Reliance Outfitters or anywhere and get at least a 5-time magnification magnifying glass. This one's 7, and I keep it in this little bag wrapped in some tissue paper. That way it doesn't get scratched. Why would I keep this? Well, because the sun doesn't run out of energy, right? Even in some lower sunlight settings, I can get a fire going by igniting a coal. I'm not trying to make flame with this. I'm trying to just get a small ember going so I can use it to start my tinder bundle. That's if my other resources fail. Many times I resort to this. I enjoy the process of doing it. It reminds me of being a kid. But most importantly, it's because the sun is a renewable resource. It never stops glowing, right? So the magnifying glass is going to allow me to get tinder bundle going, get an ember going every single time better than a bow drill will. All right. So in this series, I'm going to be working on different things, but I'm starting with the common person stuff. I'm not going to call it the amateur stuff. Because there's nothing amateur about it when you know how to use these resources. But the final thing that I always carry with me, and this might seem kind of odd to you, but like I said, I'm usually making lunch or coffee or something like that, but it can also be used for other things, and that's my Primus Stove with a can of fuel. I always have a full can of fuel in my bag. Why? Because sometimes I'm hunting and I don't want to get a big fire going. I want to cook my lunch, make my coffee, and get moving. Right? These things will cook my coffee within 10 or 15 minutes, my lunch, same amount of time. So in about 20 minutes, I'm eating my lunch, drinking my coffee, and I'm back out on the trail hunting, right? But also in lower wind, because in high winds, these things go out. It's just the way it is. But in lower winds, even if I have I put a windshield around it, I could actually use this to light less than prime materials, right? Because this is a continuous fire and I can make it really, really hot. All right. So yeah, it's extra weight. You're adding like an extra half of a pound to your bag and everything. But for the common person that just wants to go out and enjoy the woods, enjoy their meal, distill some water, whatever it may be, this is a great little resource to have. The stoves usually run anywhere between 20 to 25 bucks at most sporting goods stores or Walmart. A can of fuel, typically you're looking at about $4 to $6. I've gotten them for $3 on sale at Walmart. So every time I see one, I buy them up. When they're empty, I safely puncture a hole in them, smash them, and take them to a recycling center. It's the only way you can really get rid of them. So these things here, I use this more often than anything because I'm cooking all the time. All right. Now in future videos, I'm going to go over some fire lays, but in this video, I'm going to show you how to process some of this material that we bought at the store in order to use it to start a fire. All right. So stay tuned. Okay, folks. So the first thing we're going to go over is next fire. I know it seems weird that I'm going to do that in that order, but it's something that I think about a lot. A lot of folks have problems with keeping a fire going, for one. Number two is actually getting that fire started. So if you can make it easier for yourself every step along the way, it helps. So if you look right now, I have this fire going, and I just used pine twigs and some goldenrod heads. If you look over in the field over here, there's a lot of goldenrod over there, right? And now I'm going to expect that it's going to rain, okay? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day this week it's going to rain. So I'm going to be looking for things that I could use right now to get ready for my next fire. All right. Most people are going to go out in their camp and they're going to get their fire started and they're going to use a lighter. They're going to use like Instafire, fat wood, right? We're going to get it going pretty rapidly. But it's in those inclement conditions, the times that we're not really expecting things to go wrong, that they're going to go wrong. So one of the first things I'm going to do is look around my area and see if I can find anything that's going to help me with my next fire but needs to be prepared. So if I look right here, see if I can get that in the shot right here. There we go. It's just some horseshoe fungus. All right, it's not a very big piece. I'd like to have a piece bigger than that, but all I'm going to do is take my axe and knock a chunk of that off there. And I don't typically take a whole thing. A lot of times I'll leave it for the future, so I have future resources. Now, what's nice about horseshoe fungus is on the inside there's a nice hardy grainy piece of wood that will actually take spark really quick, that will create an ember that you can use to start your tinder pile. But this is wet. It may feel dry. You put it to your face, it's kind of cool. That tells you it's wet. Okay, so what we're going to typically do is just take this and find a place next to our fire where it's not going to get burned up, and I'm just going to set it there. Let me get the camera down there for you. So I'm going to set it right here. It's my finger right there. Whoop, went down in. I'm just going to set it on my trivet that I have here, right? And I'm going to let the fire dry that out. So while my fire's going, I'll just move that around if the fire gets too close to it, but I'm going to let the heat from the fire dry that out. Now I have a good resource for creating an ember to start my next fire. Next thing I'm going to do, since my fire is sustainable, and that's what I'm looking for a fire, if it's burning for about 5 minutes, I know it's going to stay lit. Next thing I'm going to do is walk around and look for things to keep that fire going. All right. So while I'm looking around, I see that there's a dead branch right up here. Well, I'm short, I'm 5'9", so I'm not reaching that. So what could I do? Well, you can tie a toggle to a piece of string and throw it up over there and pull it down, right? Easy enough. I'm gonna look for some more low-hanging fruit, and I'm looking for dead within things. So if I look here, look at this. It's just sitting there for me, right? It's up off the ground. I can set it over next to my fire. Now I have a bit more to burn. You'll notice I got a charred log there. Anytime I'm done with a fire, if I have a bigger log, I'm going to set it on the outside of my fire and just leave it set, let it go out. That charred piece of material right here makes great for my next lean-to fire, but I could scrape this stuff off if I didn't make any char because I forgot or whatever. And I can put that into my container and that will take a spark to create an ember. All right, so now I have all this charred material that I could use to create an ember for my next fire. So this isn't really highly difficult stuff. I think the problem that most people have is they overthink it. It's not about being pretty with it. Even when I'm processing firewood, I'm just breaking it down so I can use it. I don't really care if it's even or pretty or anything like that. But like I got these dead branches hanging around here like this. I could take my saw, or I could simply just break it off the tree by yanking on it, and now I have some more firewood. Now, if I was going to be out here camping to go hunting in the morning, I generally process all this down and put it underneath my shelter. I'm going to put a wool blanket down or a tarp. Generally, I use a wool blanket because it doesn't collect as much condensation. So I'd put a tarp down, then a wool blanket on top of that, and put all my processed material on top of that. All right. So I'd start breaking all this stuff down for my next fire. And I got my horseshoe fungus in there getting dry in the meantime. All right. So now if I'm looking at my fire, I might say, well, that's starting to go down. And I want to keep it going for the time being because I'm not done preparing for my next fire yet. All right. So I'm going to keep adding material to it. And I'm not trying to create this raging fire or anything. I'm just trying to keep something here for heat and for something that I could use to prepare for my next fire. All right. So I'm just breaking material, not being perfect about it, not being pretty about it, getting it in there, making sure there's enough airflow. Think of that triangle of fire, right? Air, fuel, and heat, right? You need heat and air to start the fire. You need fuel to keep it going. So generally, while I'm looking for other resources, I'm going to be looking for more fuel as I go. I see a lot of people, and I tell you, there's some cold months in Pennsylvania here. I see a lot of folks still spend all this time processing wood before they even get their fire going. Get enough to get it going, to keep it going, so you can now walk away from it. It's going to stay lit. You can walk away from it and you can gather other things. So one of the next things I would do is I think, well, what's an easy way for me to get my fire started? Well, I got my horseshoe fungus that'll make it take an ember, right? And I got a field of dead goldenrod, and I can pull all the tops and even the stems off these. They just break right off like that. I'm going to create a massive, massive pal and bird's nest out of that. And I'll look around further, and I like pine. You guys know I cut down that pine the other day, and I have some pines around here. I'm going to go around and collect some pencil and thumb size pieces, but I'm going to have them pretty long, and I want them to kind of wrap behind that bird's nest that I'm making out of all this goldenrod, because the goldenrod's going to flash up pretty quick. It's not going to stay lit for real long. So I'm going to create a really massive nest out of that goldenrod. Then I'm going to put that heavier pine behind it. Then I'm going to put my horseshoe fungus in the middle of that for the ember to start that fire, right? Then all I have to do is flip it down. I'll do another video showing you exactly how I'm going to process that material. But what we're going to generally be doing in these kind of situations is, I mean, you look at this and you're kind of like, oh, that's fantastic. Well, no, because it's been raining for 3 days and there was a foot of snow on the ground a week ago. This stuff's all wet. But once I have fire going, I have wood processed for my next fire. I have tinder material for my next fire. Could I sit here and buck this stuff? Sure, right? That's kind of like when Lee was out here with me. We were out here. We had that massive pile of firewood, but we did process more. All right? So we have backup firewood right there, but for me, I'm kind of like, I don't want to waste that dry resource that I know is there. I want to pull from the environment, and I want to get this going, and I'll save that really great stuff for a day when we're coming out and we're going to be out here for a while. All right? So generally, what you're going to do is first look up. Just look up everywhere. If you have a roll, I carry a roll number 36 bank line with me. All right? Make a toggle out of a stick, nice strong hardwood toggle. Tie your bank line around it real good. Throw it up over a dead branch. Yank on that thing, it'll come down. Just stand back and let it come down. Break the pieces up, keep your fire going. All right? And while you're doing this stuff, constantly be minding the fire. Constantly be coming back and adding more to it and making sure it's not being smothered out. You know, every time you make a change in a fire, well, the fire tends to go out on you. So while I'm looking for resources, I'm reminding myself that I have to mind the fire that I already have, right? And that's probably one of the most critical things. Starting a fire can be simple at times, unless you're in really wet weather conditions. But a lot of times, it's about keeping a fire going and reminding yourself that you're preparing for the next fire, right? So I'll keep these in here to burn like that, and as I'm going, I'll just keep shoving them in there, all right? And this is just a typical chaotic fire. You know, I put my fire starting material in the bottom. I put my tinder material over top. I had some pencil, toothpick, and thumb-sized pieces, and I just piled them all around it. Once I got the fire lit, I just started bringing that stuff in real chaotic-like, so there was a lot of airflow, a lot of surface area to burn. So if I even look back here, I used this old log here that was already charred, and I kept that fire tight to that because this will heat up, and it'll keep on burning. It's going to keep on smoldering. But there's other things I can collect from this too, like the ashes. Now, why would you collect ashes from a fire? Well, there's a lot of reasons that you can, but one of the primary reasons I use ashes for is to start a next fire. Not coals, not the black charred pieces, but the ashes themselves. Here's what you can do, and I'll show this in another video. So this is kind of an intro to all these different lessons we're going to go through. You can take ashes and cotton and you can roll it, and with 2 pieces of wood, you can actually get that cotton to ignite and be an ember for your next fire by putting ashes in the cotton. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that. It's real simple. It takes like a minute to do. So all of these resources are things that people don't generally think about that are important to keep a fire, to start a fire, and to have a comfortable experience when you're out in the wild. All right, and that's what we're really looking for. We're not looking for survival. Survival is keep yourself warm and hydrated until you can get out or until somebody can get you out, right? Being in the outdoors isn't, you're not meant to rough it. If you're roughing it, you're doing it wrong. It's supposed to be about comfort and smoothing it and enjoying your experience out there. And if it's always trial and error and hard times and sitting in the dirt and being wet, well, then you're not going to enjoy it, and neither will your kids. So when you're thinking about all these different things, you notice I collect horseshoe fungus. I said I could collect ashes, right? I'm going to process material and break it down and keep it under my shelter to keep it dry, right? I'm going to break up things and keep this fire going while I'm thinking of other things that I can collect or walking around looking for other things I can collect. I might have my pot of coffee going over the fire while I'm looking for things, right? I'm going to look high in the trees for any dead branches, and I'm going to make a toggle and use my bank line to get up around that and pull that down, or you could use rope, right? And I'm going to yank that stuff down and I'm going to process it down. By the time I'm done, I'm going to have a massive pile of firewood in my shelter that I need, that I know will get me through a certain period of time. And then once all that stuff's done and I'm kind of like, hey, this is good, I'm either going to do some woodcraft around the camp, I'm going to go hunting, or I'm going to buck down that big log and have that for the future. Buck it, split it, get it raised up off the ground and get it under cover. That way when I come back in the future, I have wood that's already dried and seasoned and ready to go. Okay, so that deadfall will season, it's already seasoned. It'll dry really fast if I can get it bucked, split, up off the ground and covered, right? So it's these things that help us enjoy this time in the woods. Now, if you have a place where you're kind of like, I go there, but I don't own that place or anything, well, then you have to rethink things a little bit. So you might not create such a big pile of material that you're going to save for the future. You might have to restart every time you go out. But if you're collecting resources now, there's no reason if you carry like a 55-gallon trash bag or a canvas bag, like a laundry bag or something, you can't put harvested material in that bag and bring it back with you the next time you come out. Makes your life easier every time you do this stuff. So right now, I'm going to enjoy my fire. But first, let's go over some things on the table here. So I talked about earlier some of the common things that people would buy. All right. Now notice I have a thing of spices here, sriracha. Once again, I don't want to be bored out in the wilderness, but that also has some salt, sodium that I need, some calories that I need, and I add that to my noodles. But I always have this bag with me, this water bag. It's got a 64-ounce water bottle, and my bush pot, it's about a 48-ounce bush pot, fits in there with it, with the lid. All right. Then I have one of the packgrill.com smaller racks, because I like to put that on top of my stove every once in a while, right? Then I have a bottle hanger, I have my utensils, and those all go into this bag. On the strap of this bag, you'll notice I have 2 cotton bandanas right in the shoulder strap. Not only does that pad that shoulder strap for me, but I could use that to, wipe my face off if I'm sweating, clean my pots up. I could use it as a bandage. I could use it for char cloth, right? So it has a lot of uses. So I have 2 of those bandanas, and I typically keep a shemagh. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, right there. A shemagh with me too. I don't use that more than just for a scarf to keep the weather off of me and wipe my sweat off and stuff like that. That's typically what I use the shemagh for. So we have our fire starting materials here. Many different ways of starting fire. Cordage, containers, cooking. That's surefire for me to cook with, right? I got more containers you can see scattered around all over the place. But let's take a look right here. And this is something a lot of people don't think about. I journal a lot of things because I'm a writer. And I think it's an important thing, but I keep a Write in the Rain notebook with me. If you do get out into the woods in an area that you're not familiar with, a lot of people don't realize that this is probably one of the most powerful things you could have. For one, if you're lost, stay still, and hopefully you created a recovery plan, meaning you told somebody where you were going and when you should be back, or if they should come looking for you. I will use something like a piece of paper. I teach people this all the time, and I'll post it to a tree. A lot of times I'll carry a orange elastic tape in my bag with me when I go hunting. If you look over yonder on the ground, you could see there's a, see that orange right there? That's because there's a little stump sticking out of the ground. But I carry that nylon tape with me to mark my hunting areas when I'm hunting. So I'll wrap it around a tree and I'll mark the areas while I'm hunting. So if somebody's walking through, they can see that there's somebody hunting there. But that orange tape could also mark my path, right, that I'm walking, and notify people where I'm at, especially if I can leave a note every time I post to those trees, so people know which direction I'm going into. I can write bearings from my compass on it. I can let them know how I'm doing, right? How urgent it is for them to find me, all kinds of different things. I can also write down landmarks and navigation points in my notebook. So if I find an area that I really like and I'm not very familiar with it, but I find my way around it, I'm going to make notes so I always know which way around. And I'm going to find landmarks that are above snow lines, which means if there's 5 feet of snow on the ground, I still want to be able to see those items. So they might be high up in the tree, it might be a funky little crook, it might be a big knot in the tree, whatever it may be. But I'm going to write down a lot of things that are above the snow line. So if I'm out in the woods, I'm hunting, it starts snowing really bad, all of a sudden everything looks completely different. I can still see my markers, right? But also this carpenter's pencil, they're cheap, they're about $1 at the local hardware store. Well, that's cedar, okay? I can shave pieces of this off and add it to my tinder if I want to, right? This will write in the rain in this particular notebook, all right? So there's a lot of uses for these things. Just like the duct tape I said earlier, I can strip that down into strips and I can make a small bird's nest out of that. Add some of this other fire resources to it and tarred bank line and things like that, and I can create a pretty effective fire starter, right? So it's these types of things. Are these the highest quality? No, they're not. Absolutely not. Will they get you through? It's better than nothing, right? And I'd add to this my Bic lighter, basically. But so I have a container to cook in, right? I have a way to suspend it over a fire with my fish mouth spreaders, or I could use my little grill on my stove. If it's too cold out or the wind's blowing too much, my stove ain't working, well, I'm going to do these other things to get a fire going and hang things, not over a cook set like this, but over a tripod that I make using my bank line, right? I'm always going to have a bag with ample amount of water. I'm always going to have fire starting material, and I generally have 2 bags. I have my backpack with me with cutting tools, like my axe, my folding saw, things like that. I always have my water containers and food with me. I always have my fire kit with me. I always have a belt knife and a pocket knife that's tied to a piece of paracord that's clipped onto my belt loop. I have these things for a reason. I don't want to suffer when I'm out. I want to have fun when I'm out. Okay? So look around, say, go to Walmart to the camping section. Go to a sporting goods store to the camping section. And look at that cheap stuff that everybody passes up. Would I bet my life on all this stuff? No. But since I have all these different types of things sitting in front of me, I'm pretty sure that I can get something going. If I can't, then that means I should spend more time in my backyard before I go into the wilderness and practice these things. That way, I'm not stuck when I get out there. Never go to the field and try all the learning. Try some of your learning at home in a controlled environment, and then take those skill sets a little deeper into the forest. And once you're more comfortable, a little deeper into the forest, and begin to explore and begin to practice these skills, because they are perishable. Trust me. So for right now, I'm going to get my fire going back up because I want to heat my coffee up in my little Pathfinder kettle there. It's probably the most awesome kettle I've ever had. I love that thing. But I'm going to keep this fire going for a little bit longer. And here's another little tip for you before I go. You notice that this is down to coals right now, right? That's when I'd cook meat. When it's down like that, that's when I'm going to cook meat. I'm not going to cook meat over flames because I'm just going to sear the outside and not cook it good enough. I'm going to cook my meat over hot coals. I'm going to boil over flames, and I'm going to keep flames going for heat. All right, but the hot coals, that's where you're going to cook meat. You're going to cook chicken. You're going to cook fish and things like that. So I might take one of my little pack grills here. I got a couple of them hanging around here. Love these things, so I always keep them on my cook sets. So I might take one of my little pack grills here and just get it propped up in the fire on these hot coals like this, and I'm going to cook right over top of that, right? So if I got a burger or steak or something like that I want to cook, this is where I'm going to cook it, right here. All right, so not over top of flames. Boil over flames, cook over coals. All right, folks, see you next time.